Nonprofit and philanthropic leaders devote their lives to the service of others, but sometimes they need a little help. Kristine Michie has been deep in the work and the play of helping changemakers grow their impact for decades. So whether you're ladling soup at a local shelter or attending a UN peace conference, you need to find the balance between the heavy work and a light touch so you don't burn out. And Kristine believes play is at the center of that. Welcome to the Playful Podcast, bringing fun to the serious work of changing the world.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Playful Podcast. We are bringing fun to the serious work of changing the world. And we are in our candidate series right now. I'm having the great thrill and pleasure to talk to people that are raising their hands, stepping forward, or maybe have before and are doing it again to say they want to be a part of the political process right now and are running for an office, a seat somewhere in the country and at some level of government. And today we have a mayoral candidate with us from a beautiful place that is next door to where I live called Encinitas, California, in Southern California in San Diego County. Rimga Viskanta is with us, candidate for mayor. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And definitely Encinitas goes with this podcast because it's very hard not to play when you live in Encinitas.
Well, if you would, because you and I are fortunate enough to live and know intimately what Encinitas is like, would you describe it to people who may be sitting in Massachusetts or in Florida or in Arizona? What is Encinitas, California like?
Yes, and I grew up in Northern Virginia. So Encinitas, California is a place you might dream about if you want to live in a beach community. We have Swamis here, which was featured in the Beach Boys surf song. And it's a coastal community of about 60,000 residents. There's a very small town feel and vibe with a slightly more urban downtown. And we also stretch east into some country areas where people have horses and goats. So there's a lot here for everyone.
So let's talk first, Runga, about the people that say yes to running for office, and maybe always so, and maybe even a little more so right now. I think those of us who aren't doing that, I'd like to tip my hat and say thank you for your service. Tell us about the decision to run compared to other ways you have been involved or might have chosen to be involved.
I think I've always had a tendency toward finding commonality in groups. It might have begun in my family setting where we were pretty vocal Lithuanians arguing all the time. And I was this youngest child peacemaker role. And when I am in a room or in a situation or on a team, I really I don't even look for it. I just naturally see what we all have in common and identifying the common end game. And then I work towards how we can get there. I feel that that's a skill so important in this time because we are fighting against division happening mostly online and social media and these algorithms where we believe we are on two different sides. And I am quite frustrated when that then seeps into our local politics where we believe there are two different sides to every issue. And I just want to scream from the rooftops, no, we're in this together. We have common values. And that's driving me to want to run and bring that message.
Okay, thank you. And now I gotta imagine that with that as your reason and your message, you might be getting some pushback or challenge from quote unquote another side or the other side, opposition. How do you keep your spirit up and that message clear when you actually are having to just first of all at the basic level, like, distinguish yourself from the other candidate, the incumbent, but also kind of be buffeted by winds where people call you different and say, that's not what we think, that's not what we believe. How's that going? And I guess I'll ask you if play is a tool that you use there in the bridge building.
I think that what's more challenging than convincing someone who might identify as politically, their political ideology is different from mine. That is a challenge, but I just listen. I humanize, uh, find again things in common, share jokes, and maybe that's the joy, make
Yeah.
myself vulnerable and just really say, I understand where you're coming from. And I believe people are coming from a good place when they have their opinions. What's actually more challenging is in those who politically align with me more,
Mm.
we're on a spectrum. And I find more pressure sometimes from my own strongest supporters to go out stronger, to shout louder, to be a fighter, to be have a megaphone for everything that is really hurtful to them that's happening in our country. And I see that and I hear that. And there's a role, I think, for the advocates to do that. But I think that those who are governing need to step back, allow that to happen here, and not step back as in abandon your values or anything like that. But if we are going to, if division is the big problem in our country, then participating in that, you're just exacerbating the problem.
Yeah.
So it takes some bravery and challenge to say no to some of what's being asked of me. But I think in the end, that will make me someone who appeals to a broader range of people. And that's what we need now. This going back forth, yes, no, yimby, nimby, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And it's we have to do something different to move away from it.
Yes. You mentioned as a girl, as a young woman, in family settings, playing a bit of a peacemaker. I know that you have served as a trustee on the local school board, and some of that time was also challenging and potentially divisive, and that you know, saw yourself and acted as a peacemaker and a bridge builder. And I want to pull out the word govern seem to be the distinction you were just making. Those that are governing, have a different role in so doing, in so choosing that, and then, hoping to be that, asking to be that, and then being elected to being that. You have a new responsibility, a different kind of responsibility. Can you tease that out a little bit?
Sure. And I think what's important when you are elected, and now it's a different game. Now you're in that role of governing. And some politicians, once they're elected, I think still think that they're running for office. And they still give like political speeches sometimes from the dais. Um, I believe this is the time to govern, and the way that looks different is being more quiet because your role here is to take in the different voices of the community. And what I always try to do is tease out the data and information apart from whomever is providing that data or information. And the way that looks, as an example, occasionally I have some members on the dais who serve with me who are quite different politically. We really have really differing views. And anytime they raise an idea, there might be an impulse to say, to reject it because of the source.
Ooh, yes.
And I know my supporters often mistrust anything that comes from someone who thinks differently. I don't know how, but I don't do that. I don't care where an idea comes from. I just like to evaluate the idea on its merit. Is that helpful for our school district and for our children as a whole, or is it not? When we were implementing ethnic studies in our high school district, it's a highly contentious issue with really strong opinions from all sides. And so, if someone who's opposed to ethnic studies was calling for more transparency and seeing exactly what's being taught, sometimes people for ethnic studies would fight against that. Um, but I try to look at it differently in that actually, if we are for ethnic studies and believe in this concept, let's put it all out on the table. We have nothing to hide. So I agree with that approach, even though the loudest shouts for that approach came from someone ideologically different. But I think that's an example of just looking at the issue on the merits and not the emotion or the political ideologies of who proposed it.
I love that. I was thinking that I think people have a sense, or I guess I'll speak for myself, a sense of like, you maybe would identify someone and go, man, that person is or could be a natural politician, right? There's things about them that kind of call to that to mind. I don't think I've ever thought to myself that person would be a great governor. Not like governor of the state, but like
Right.
a good person in government, a good person to govern. And it sounds like you were born with those natural qualities of being a good person to sit in that seat of governing. And I love that you're reminding us that there's a politician moment and a candidate moment, but then once elected, what you have promised to do, the whole reason you were ostensibly running was to represent everyone and represent all the voices. So you do need to shift into a different posture.
And it's hard in today's society, again, because of social media
Yeah.
and where the loudest voices gain attention. I heard a statistic recently that fake news travels 6 times faster than real news on social media. And the election process favors people who are good at salesmanship,
Yeah.
selling themselves, selling a message, packaging themselves. Yeah, there's a statistic on social media that fake news travels 6 times faster than real news. So we live in this environment where to get elected to office is more of a salesmanship job. You have to be a good salesman, you have to package yourself on social media, whereas social media is what many diagnose as the problem of our society today. And it really, sometimes people blame the politicians who have been elected for our issues. And I encourage everyone to flip the mirror. The reason they're successful is we are the ones on social media following the posts that are very triggering. So, but the way that goes into local elections again, and the difference between governance is that if the people who are the best salesmen and the best packagers of themselves are the ones who are elected, that doesn't mean they have those skills to for good governance.
Yeah.
And often, if you have these, I see all sides points of view, that's hard in a campaign. I can't have my campaign messages be like, I think all of you have some good points, right? Like, even though that's honestly what I feel.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Tell us, so the idyllic part of Encinitas, and for those who have a sense of, like I said, kind of San Diego broadly, and Encinitas is like the epitome of all that beauty and good and warm, friendly people and climate and all that. What are some of the problems in Encinitas that you want to help solve? You have already been involved in solving and helping solve, but that is kind of further calling you into this role right now.
I think that whenever we see big problems in the world that create anxiety, the option always exists for us to make things better right where we are. And the problems nationally, while I can't impact those as much in my role, if the problem nationally is divisiveness, I can work on that locally, right here with my neighbors. So I could do that locally.
Yeah.
If climate change is a problem globally, there are things I can do locally to make myself feel better. And with climate change, homelessness, political divisiveness, all of these things are coming from national level down in many ways, but there are so many solutions we can do locally, and engaging in that work takes the anxiety and edge off that at least I'm doing something, and maybe solutions we come up with here can then trickle up. So Encinitas and Solana Beach, these cities here in our coastal county, were some of the first to ban plastic bags, for example. And we showed it's possible. And then that trickled up to the whole state of California, and then it went nationwide. So I think that's what inspires me to be engaged locally, is that change is possible here.
Yeah, I love it. I was going to ask you next, do you have any examples that you imagine, but you already have one that's already happened? For example, how long ago was that, the plastic bag?
Well, I feel like that was 2008 or
Yeah.
2009, quite a
Wow.
while.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So going on 20 years ago. Fantastic. When you when you think about the role, tell us a little bit about the role of mayor in Encinitas. Sometimes it's like a city council position that rotates and different things like that. How long is the term? Is it partisan or nonpartisan? What are some of the details about the office you're running for?
So city council races, including the mayor, are nonpartisan in name. However, it seems that everything, including school district, has become more partisan. But on the ballot, it's a nonpartisan race. The mayor is elected separately. It used to be there was 5 council members elected and they would rotate who was mayor. But now the mayor is a separate elected position. Here in Encinitas, it's only a 2-year position.
Wow.
And that's something I think is problematic, because then every 2 years you're getting 2 new council members and a new mayor. So you're constantly rotating a majority of the council out, which can be tough. But I think this is what else it's important for people to understand. When residents are angry at things happening, and they feel government is ineffective, they want a leader like a mayor or the president of the US to step in and do something. And our founding democracy was actually built to make things so that the executive office was not too efficient, because dictatorships are efficient. We don't want that, right? So here at Encinitas, the mayor doesn't have any extra powers than all the other council members. They are considered to be spokesperson for the city or the council, and they help set the agenda with the city manager. And we had a city manager who's actually running the city. And the mayor and the council members just serve as official voices of the public to provide input on policy, on what we want, and then the city manager and staff come up with how we do it. So I think that sometimes people want the mayor here in Encinitas, again, to be very proactive in doing a lot. And I just would caution against that, because again, that's what we want to be fighting against in our democracies.
Fascinating. And does the mayor have a vote along with the city councilors?
Equal vote. Yep.
Interesting. Okay, so 6 votes then, you said. So
So
5
it's 5.
5 total?
Yeah.
5
There's 4 council members, and mayor. So there's 5 total.
Fantastic. When you think about, so a 2-year term, that reminds me when way back when I was in college and I did internship in Washington, D.C. for a local representative. And man, that 2-year congressional cycle really overemphasizes the fundraising, the campaigning, that what we were just talking about, that the time spent in candidate mode is so much of that 2-year period. And I, as a 20-year-old, when I was watching that happen, I was like, this doesn't seem like a really good system. How does that affect this race, this role, and similarly the counselors being on that 2-year cycle?
Right. I think it affects, for example, the current mayor was just elected 1 year ago. And it's to my advantage right now that it's a 2-year cycle. And I already don't like what I've seen and the direction things are going. So I get to jump in. But I'm sure from his perspective, he's just getting started.
Right.
And now he's already got to campaign again, just like the congressman. And then you have to, when you're in that campaign mode and that mode of selling yourself, again, on the campaign trail, it's not a great message to say, well, everyone has a good point. And it favors this, it favors not compromising. It favors being strong. It favors being, stalwart. And I think people confuse that you can be a compromiser and listen to all sides and still be grounded in your value set.
Yeah.
That's where you don't want to compromise.
Yeah.
But on everything else, you can. But this constant campaigning is not good for a lot of us.
Yeah. That thought that you're, as a candidate, some of it makes sense. You have to distinguish yourself from the alternative.
Mhm.
But then further, as it's further kind of indulged, it can be distinguishing yourself from whole groups of people and whole areas of thinking and contemplation and consideration, which you're saying you're trying not to do. Right.
That's right.
Tell us about I know from your bio that you spent time working in city government, which is a really fantastic, in my opinion, vantage point from which to launch, what became your school board campaign and service, and now this. Why do you think that makes you especially useful and potentially effective? Because you've worked in city government, and tell a little bit about the roles you were in.
Right. I love city government and I love bureaucrats. And I want to make bureaucrats beautiful again. I don't know how to, what to say, but they are some of the most dedicated professionals I've seen. They've gone into a career because they want to make the world a better place. They go through extensive training to become engineers who can build bridges and public works projects, who can design our roads, who understand planning. They have a lot of technical expertise. And I started out as an intern and I definitely worked my way through many different departments. I worked in the city clerk's office. I worked in the engineering department. I helped support planning. I mostly worked in the finance department and finally in the city manager's office doing all kinds of programs. And the vantage point that allowed me to see is when you hear residents or council want certain things to happen in a community, I understand what levers to push and how to actually make it happen so that it's effective. So often people in the public believe things aren't happening because there's a lack of will. And I want to tell people that often there is a will, there's not a way.
Mm.
And that's where we need to focus. And I will give an example. As a school board member, I had environmental groups approaching me, wanting me to do a resolution that says, as a school district, we are going to electrify everything. And I pushed back. I don't want to do a resolution. The reason I didn't want to do a resolution, it's not a binding document. It's just a piece of paper. Rather than saying, we have the will, we want to electrify, we need to look at what is the first steps of electrification. It's doing an energy audit. Let's figure out how to get that done. If we can't even get step one done, we can't do the rest. So I encouraged advocates to advocate first for that.
Nice.
And so I think that because I've worked in government, I know that if someone just said, we want to electrify everything, I'd be like, great, so do I. How?
Yeah.
Where's the money for the audit? Let's work together to figure out that problem. So I think understanding the how government works helps understand where to focus attention and energy.
When you said that about loving bureaucrats, and I'm thinking about how like certain terms have be kind of demonized, like bureaucracy, right? And I've always been a big fan. I've talked about how I think lobbying is a really esteemed profession. Now, like many things, there are parts of it, and maybe lots of parts of it that have been kind of perverted, but lobbying is so democratic and so essentially a part of our system that you can go and speak and try to influence. Once someone's elected, they don't ideally, right, they don't wall themselves off. They want to hear from people. Now, again, I understand what's gotten kind of perverted about lobbying, but and bureaucracy, oh my God, all hail. Like, it's so great. You're right. Like, all those people who do all that work and have been trained specifically and done it in many cases for decades.
And when it works well, it created a lot of things in our country, right? From all of our public infrastructure. But the negative term, I understand also why it comes about. Right now, when we think bureaucracy, we think pointless regulations and paperwork. And I hate pointless regulations and paperwork. But I will tell you, every bureaucrat does too. And the reason it's this disconnect between, again, the people who are the politicians and the bureaucrats. So when I was a bureaucrat and we were doing something mundane like issuing business license and a process seemed inefficient, I wasn't allowed to change it as a bureaucrat because the council makes the municipal code and sets the law. And I'm not really allowed to talk to the council and go, can you guys just tweak this little thing? I mean, it's a whole thing to approve a new municipal code and changes. So I think that if bureaucrats were allowed more flexibility, more freedom to identify inefficiencies themselves and fix it, we would be much better off.
Love it.
But because we don't trust bureaucracy, there's this fear to let someone, because could you imagine if I said, let's forget about budgeting, just let the city manager spend the money how they think is best?
Right,
I think people would freak out.
right,
But
right.
that's what private sector is allowed to do, and why private sector does things efficiently, and why we praise the private sector. But we tie the hands of government because we don't trust it. And when you tie the hands, they're not as efficient. The less you trust. It's like this never ending cycle.
Yeah.
And so I think too, bringing that back locally. So how does that understanding influence how I would serve as mayor? Again, it's understanding what the mayor and the council, the amount of direction they need to provide to staff for staff to be able to launch with whatever project we're saying. Right now, the current council, I feel, and perhaps even the previous council, the more you micromanage from the dais and say, I want a traffic project to look specifically like this or specifically like that, you're adding ropes and you're adding ropes, and you're not trained in that area, so you don't know what you don't know. And that makes the work harder. So I think as mayor, I can encourage council to stay away from doing that. You do have that power in running the meetings. Like, let's not get into the weeds. Let's let staff handle that. Let's just give the end point. We want more walkable streets. What does that look like? So I think that's how that will inform that.
This sounds so very sensible and very delightful. I I really like it. Let's
Yeah.
step away, go get your ice cream, and come back, and
Okay.
we are going to talk about a couple other things, including the scoop on how you came to care.
Okay.
All right.
Hope you get my
So,
ice cream.
folks, we are once again today having fantastic Taharka Brothers ice cream. Taharka, Taharka, taharkabros.com is our ice cream sponsor. They are a social enterprise, which means they've got like a double bottom line. They're not only making money in ice cream, but they're making a difference, and they pour their profits back into the community in Baltimore where they're from. And they are also employee owned, which is another cool thing about them. Okay, so Rimga, tell me about what it was like to get this ice cream and which of the flavors you chose.
Oh my gosh, getting this ice cream was really fun. I've never gotten a box of so many pints of ice cream. And even the dry ice it comes in, having studied science when I was, in college, I just was excited that that dry ice just evaporates directly into a gas. It doesn't melt.
Yep.
So that was neat. And seeing the unique flavors was stimulating because they're different. And so I have the key lime coconut based one because I like non-dairy. And so
Okay, and is this gonna be your first bite of it?
no.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to not eat it all ahead of time so I would still have some for
Well, it is hard to do. Now, did you get a chance to share some of the other pints with other people yet?
I did. And it was also difficulty in choosing which flavor. So we would do 1 scoop of each and mix it all up. And they're all delicious.
It's
And
so
again,
exceptionally good. It really is.
yeah. And I was just
Okay.
making sure I still had some for today, which I do. So
Thank you.
now
I have a hard time with that myself. Okay, and I'm having the cookie dough, which is brown sugar flavored ice cream with gobs, and I love that word, gobs of cookie dough. Okay.
Mhm.
So you gave us a little, did you say Lithuanian family?
Yeah.
Family origins? Yes.
Oh,
So-
yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said I shared it. My Lithuanian family, my mom was visiting from Lithuania, but she didn't arrive in time for the ice cream. So I just shared it with my son and my partner. Yeah. So we've been enjoying it.
So on how you came to care, the scoop on how you came to care and be someone who, set out on a course of being of service to others, what early memories do you have about how that might have formed in you?
When I think about what was told to me, like stories about myself as a child, I can't help but think that some people are born either more empathetic or feeling other people's feelings. So my mother has a story when I was somewhat a colicky kid. This is why I'm eating the non-dairy ice cream now. Turns out it was the dairy. And it was 3 in the morning, and she was holding me, trying to soothe me. And she said she was holding me like this and rubbing my back. And after a while, she said, my little hand, I just started rubbing her back.
Wow.
That I
That's a
started
great story.
copying
Yes.
and doing it back. And then a second memory I have was I was going to church when I was in the 5th grade, and I found a nickel, and I was so excited on the ground.
Yeah.
And then we were in the church, and I saw a older woman who looked so lonely and so sad, and somehow I felt her sadness.
Mm,
And as we were walking out of the church, I gave her the nickel. And
mm,
I remember this warm feeling come over me. Her eyes just lit up. And I think I just got that experience of what it is to make someone else feel good.
mm,
In some ways, it's selfish because
mm.
it makes you feel good. But if we want, I think I just had that lesson early that when we are stressed, when things seem bad, we have it within our locus of power to exert love and help out. And then you're surrounded by good things.
Yes.
And so,
Energy,
yeah.
good energy in, out, like that's virtuous cycle. I
Yep.
agree. I mean, you can imagine, that's why I do the playful podcast. I want more of that. I'm just talking to people all the time who are on the planet, on behalf of others, right? To make the world better for other people and
Yes.
the joy they get from that, the joy they spread. Absolutely. Has your spirit been tested in
Yes.
pain? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It sure has. I think that because I feel so much, it's very hard space to be an empath. And it is a hard space to care about what everyone's opinions are because there are so many to take into account. And so it does weigh heavily, and there's a feeling that I just want to escape, or why did I do this? I could just do something way more comfortable. And but then I think I allow myself then, and this is about joy or recuperation.
Yeah.
I do allow myself, I don't fight through those feelings. I fully feel all those things.
Mhm.
And then I'll go out into my yard. I love to weed.
Mm.
And just that process of pulling on weed, it's very satisfying. And then you see the end product. Or I do something else that fills me up. It's for me, it's nature. And then I feel the strength to do it again. And I think if I can't find the strength to do this, who should?
Mm.
And so
Yeah. Um, when you think about no, when's the election? How long do you have till the election?
November 3rd.
Okay. So a long time. I mean, it'll
Yeah.
go fast. We know it'll go fast, but
Yeah.
right.
No, but it is hard to know that for this long I have to be in this
Yeah,
game on mindset.
yeah. And is it are you doing it every day or kind of like what do I say, campaigning every day in a certain sense?
I am preoccupied with it every day, and that is hard.
Yeah.
We try to have a schedule or goals for the week. When I say we, I have a volunteer, delightful campaign manager
Yeah.
because you can't do it the whole time. You have to still live your life. So that does take some discipline to say, now I'm focusing on campaign. Now I'm doing the other things in my life. I still do work. I do accounting for a property management company. So I have to take care of that. But it is, I feel so strongly about campaigning, and I feel a deep responsibility that it is hard not to think about it all the time and make sure, am I doing everything I can to reach all voters? Am I getting my message out correctly? Am I creating that community of belonging I want to see in Encinitas? And so I think about it every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to, as we wrap up, I want to kind of make a picture like mayorships and mayors in general. I mean, it's such a for folks who are, that listen to this podcast, who are working kind of all around the kind of social good ecosystem in different roles as philanthropists, as nonprofit professionals, academics, policymakers. Mayors have such a beautiful role. And I've always been enamored with like the U.S. Conference of Mayors and things like that, where I know that all the mayors come together one of my friends and who's been on the podcast. She was in the first Obama administration. She was the director of intergovernmental affairs, so she was in charge of the working with the mayors and the governors on behalf of the administration. And she went on to some other really great jobs in the administration, but I know that one always was really sweet and special to her. If you would tell me why you think what's special about mayorships, mayoral influence
Right.
in the world.
I think that if we do have these higher values of freedom, democracy, all the things that made our country great, we like to say in my campaign that the front line of democracy is local. So the front line is local. And it is where we create the world we want to see. We have a lot of control over how Encinitas looks. And if we don't do it here, then how do we expect it to be done anywhere else?
Yeah.
And the mayors have a voice to come together and advocate as one to a higher level. So the mayors in San Diego have a strong voice when they advocate at Sacramento. Add that, like you said, to the governor's voices, to what's happening in the federal government. We do have a say. We have access we have access to our locally elected federal representatives, our congressmen and senators. And so we have a chance to speak our voice. And we do that best if what we're doing in our own cities is working well.
Yeah.
Like, here's how it can look. Look what we're accomplishing with homelessness. Look what we're accomplishing with housing. Look how we're addressing climate resilience. This can be done. We want it done everywhere.
Well, that feels like a perfect place to pause this part of our conversation, which I know will continue. I'm going to be bumping into you around town, folks. Lucky me that I get to do that. And we will keep tabs on the campaign and be supporting you along the way. And thank you so much for spending time with us today, Rimga.
Thank you. This was fun. I'm so excited to eat
Another
that.
bite of ice cream before we go.
Yeah, definitely. Yum.
Well, thank you for bringing fun to the serious work of changing the world with us here today.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to the Playful Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review it on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you know of a leader or organization that's doing good in the world and you'd love to help us help them amplify their message, I would love to have them on the show. Go to the show notes and click there, or go to impactfulinc.com/contact. And that's impactful with 2 L's, inc.com/contact. And let us know who you're thinking about. Can't wait to see you next time.